Hi, my name is Kendra, and I'm one of the managers at USA Teens Today. We teach Scholastic Aptitude test preparation and other test preparation courses in South Florida. One of our themes at USA Teens Today is what makes you unique. Like your own personal style, rendered with your own personal DNA, you also have a unique testing style, and you also have a unique reading comprehension style and a different learning style for math, reading, computer science, biology, or any subject you're in. Why is this important? Because in order to have success on any achievement test, you do need to know what your learning style is, and then you can get into your testing style. Let's go over some few tips. First, try to skim the first and last passages. This is the tried and true method because the SAT, the ACT, and most other tests are time consuming, and also they are timed. Tip 2, become an active reader. Be an active reader if you are taking the written portion. Even on the computerized portions, they have notepads. You can type words in on the side. You want to try to understand the author's focus or his or her main idea. You may have to underline it or circle it. You go to the last paragraph, see if the last paragraph fits with the first paragraph. And at all times, please be an active reader. By active reading, we mean that you are looking at the words, but your mind is actually thinking so that you can try to get ahead of the author of the passage and see what he or she is going to ask you. Let's take a look at this poem. This is the beginning of a poem we use to teach students. Elegant. She was elegant, both she and my mom. My mom, like many women, copied Jacqueline Kennedy's style. Tried a widow's peak, tried puffy bouffant, tried to resemble a significant role model in the 1960s, towards the end of an era where peace was needed. The word elegant should stick out at you. Both she and my mom. Look at the word she, the pronoun. Who are we talking about? Can we relate it to Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy? And then, since it's right there in front of us, we're talking about Jacqueline Kennedy's style. Here's the first part of the poem. You can see it, you can read it. There are certain words that would stick out at you. Go into the second stanza. My mom researched Coco Chanel, who was another renegade woman determined to redefine those defined by constraints. My mom relied on less expensive version of Chanel elegance. So did many other women who wanted to be like Jackie Kennedy. Which words explain the author's purpose or the author's intention? Are there any forms of imagery or images in the passage or poem? And how does the author begin each stanza? And if you have a reading portion from a literary article, it would be, how does the author begin each paragraph? When we look at the third stanza, we see the first word there is composure. Do you see anything related to the first stanza? The first stanza starts with elegant. The third stanza starts with composure. How might these relate? Even without reading the rest of the third stanza, you should be able to see that my mother used this word to refer to Jackie O. And if you didn't see that second sentence there, you would still know that Jackie Kennedy was both elegant and she had composure. Goes on further. My mother used this word to refer to Jackie O. How did she remain that composed? a sabotage, a conspiracy. Who knows? What I know is that Jackie O remained composed according to my mother, who emulated her, who thought she was regal like many women who needed her style for the end of an era where peace was needed. We see that we have a repeat there in the ending of the third stanza and the first stanza. The end of an era when peace was needed. We have all these other words: composure, conspiracy. What is the author trying to say? These are some of the examples and words you want to look at if you're reading or trying to speed read and go over these words to eliminate the time. You'll have elegant, copied, widow's peak, resemble, Coco Chanel, constraints, compare. This is just the rest of the poem so that you can look at it. We're going to analyze the passage, which we just did. Here we have the end of an era where peace was needed. There's imagery in the poem. You guys probably know what imagery is, but just in case, we're refreshing it. Coco Chanel, if you look at her, she has always represented beauty. As far as modeling and her perfume, her jewelry, and her what they call haute couture and ready-to-wear dresses. There's a picture of Coco Chanel with some of her own jewelry. When you see Coco Chanel, you see elegance, and when you see this time version of Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, you see the same thing. You need to think about that. A motif is a recurring image. Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, she's an image for women of that era, very composed, very elegant, and it then becomes a motif. You may not have to memorize these words, but you need to understand how they work as far as literature and how authors use them. We've analyzed the passage. This is just some more help here to go through it with you. Imagery and motifs. You can look at this on your own. This is just more, the same situation we've already discussed. Literary flow. The authors may get to how the imagery and motifs work to help the poem. You need to try to actively read so you can understand. Is the author saying something in stanza 1 that contradicts stanza 2, or does stanza 2, more importantly, contradict the introduction, which would be stanza 1? You want to look at structure and style and see how these things are emulated. We've already analyzed the passage. Let's go over some questions. These questions are questions on the SAT, not verbatim, but we have gone over the Princeton review version of the SAT. We've gone over the College Board's examples on the SAT, and guess what? The author's point of view most likely resembles which of the following? So it gives you choices: a concerned mother, an aggressive teacher, a discontented lover, or a daughter who loves her mother. If you look at some of this question would be hard, but think about it. An aggressive teacher is out because the person is never talking about a teacher, so B is out. Is a concerned mother? The speaker is talking about her mother, and it's words my mother used. A discontented lover. Did she or he, the speaker, mention anything about a lover? So just by simple, as you guys know, PO, process of elimination, a daughter who loves her mother, D has to be the answer. Words my mother used. Unless this poem had some very negative words in it, you would automatically know that she liked her mother, or her mother and her had something in common, and she was saying, looking at her mother as someone who liked Jackie Kennedy Onassis and who liked elegance. So that's the only possible choice. Maybe not the best choice that the author could have given you, but it is still the only positive choice that would make sense for why that was written. Okay, let's go on and look at our next question. Oh, I gave you answers. Sorry about that. You know the other answer, but if we go back to the other question, we had, sorry about that, guys. We had another question, question 2, and question 2 actually referred to what is the major reason the speaker may have written the poem. And when you're playing this back, you can go backwards and see what happened. And the major reason that the speaker may have written the poem, your choices were A, was the speaker showing love for her mother. B, the speaker is showing how fashion design shaped women of the 1960s. C, the speaker reveres Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. Or D, the speaker is showing how her mother's style was shaped by female icons of the 1960s. And with that kind of question, even though we put the answer D, you really, really need to read the entire poem to make sure, you know, that it's not the speaker is showing love for her mother, but that's not really what she's saying. She wouldn't have written words my mother used. She would have said, oh, my mother was this wonderful woman and I loved her, and this is why. This poem is more or less relating to her mom, who liked Jackie Kennedy Onassis and her style, and how her mom copied some of her less expensive versions of Chanel Elegance, and how her mom, you know, said she was composed. How did she remain that composed? So it really has to do with the mother and the way she revered Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. And I'm going to say this when you read this. Okay, A is out, and B is the speaker is showing how fashion design shaped women of the 1960s. That's too broad. It's not just the fashion designs. It's Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis's entire style. C, the speaker reveres Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, but we don't get that as much. We get more that the speaker knows that her mother revered Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. And so then the only other choice we have is D, the speaker is showing how her mother's style was shaped by the female icons of the 1960s. Which brings us to tip 4. Practice at least 3 reading passages before taking a timed test. You can go on Amazon.com, get some SAT test prep books. You don't have to necessarily use ours. There are several. Of course, there are other time practice tests. You can go to the American College Board and download a couple of those. And there are other testing modules on different websites you can use. This is to make sure that you are going over at least 3 passages before taking a time test. Why do we tell you to do that? The reason you want to take a look at a time test is because you don't want to underestimate your ability to not be as smart as you really are, and you don't want to feel that you were kicked down because you couldn't get through these passages. So you want to work through 3 slowly as you can without, you know, too much practice, and then you want to do one. Then you want to try to do your 4th one time, and then you can regulate how your time is working for you. And then you want to just try to move on to tip 5, try to look at the vocabulary. Always try to see if you can go to the vocabulary if you're running out of time, and see what words you can get. Some of these are just everyday words. Affluent, everybody should know what that means. And try to look at the root word, which is fluent, meaning fluency, and affluent means towards fluency. So are we talking about an affluent speaker? Well, we may be, but it tends to mean somebody who has money. Okay, so they wouldn't use the words as if, oh, they're a very fluent speaker, they speak well. Aficionado, there's, look at the word. Somebody who's very, very precise and efficient. You have draconian. If you look at this closely and think about it, if you substitute C for G or G for C, you'd have a dragon. So it's something that's very rude, very coarse. Eclectic, that's hard. There's a song says, I feel eclectic, I feel loose. That's an old song, old school, but it's something very strange. And this word number 5 is really something that, is hard to explain, because innervated actually means to weaken. Okay, iconic, you should know. Idyllic, if you take 11th or 12th grade English, they usually go over this with you, especially in some of the poems. Irreverent, just like that's irrelevant, it means against whatever reverent would mean, which is strong. Guys who have done any religious text, Jeremiah is a Jeremiad. It's a long, it's long stories, and Jeremiah is just telling what happened to him, no matter what religious text you used. Juxtaposition, position is your root. Juxta means to place in and put somewhere. Lackadaisical is lazy. Lethargic is a little tired. Meticulous. Some of you teachers who made peak or classes or regular should use this. Be a meticulous student. Always be on top of things. Nomenclature. Here we go. Latin words. Nomen means name. How you name something. Quotidian, a quote. In the middle. You have prime meridian lines, right? And they're usually somewhere. Quotidian is like everyday, mundane, in the middle, not really going extremely well or extremely low. Ramifications. Hey, how do you ram something? There's a ramification. Ramming something to make something known. It's a consequence or something that happens. Guys, please don't mess up these words 17 and 18. You have your root words SCRV, serving. Come on, servile. You're under somebody. Subservient, SERVIENT. Servient means to be under, serving. And you guys know this. You've seen this on the internet. You see this in commercials. You see 19. Zeitgeist, guys. You're going to look that one up on yourself. A very powerful word. A couple of movies were made with it. And with that, here we are. You can go. Here's proof that we are legitimately on Amazon's webpage. If you were to buy this textbook, you would find there are 100 questions, including math and reading. And also, you could probably not look it up under my name, but you'd look it up under Jacobitz Learning, because that's the parent company of USA Teens Today. And if you have any questions, you can always go to Amazon and use a search term, and the book should appear. If you have any other questions other than that, you can email us at usateenstoday@gmail.com or kjacobitz@jacobitzlearning.com, and we usually get back to you within the same day. I hope you found this video helpful.